The wind cut sharp across the Montana plains, rattling the loose shutters of James Tucker's weather-beaten ranch house. He'd grown used to silence, on the land in his home, and deep in his chest. Since his wife died 5 winters ago, he hadn't much need for conversation. So when he found himself standing at the county auction, watching a wary man drag a trembling girl by the arm onto the platform, James didn't expect anything more than disgust. "Name's Josie," the man slurred, eyes sunken and wild. "She can't hear a damn thing, but she's good with animals. Real quiet, too." People shuffled, some muttered under their breath, others turned away. It wasn't an official auction, just a desperate father, trading his daughter for whiskey money. James didn't think. He just stepped forward. 100, he said, voice steady. Silence fell. The drunk blinked. "You serious?" James pulled 5 20s from his pocket and laid them on the edge of the truck bed the man used as a stage. "I said what I said." The girl didn't cry, didn't speak. She just stared at James, eyes wide, skin streaked with dust. Josie couldn't have been more than 16. Back on the ranch, Josie didn't say a word for weeks. She worked hard, cleaned stalls, fed horses, even mended fence wire with fingers that had clearly learned hardship young. James didn't pry. He gave her space, a room of her own, 3 meals a day, warm clothes from the general store, and silence, which he assumed she preferred. He tried learning some sign language from old books at the library in town, clumsily spelling out simple words at dinner. Josie watched politely but never responded. It wasn't until a storm knocked out the power one night that things shifted. James had gone to check the barn, and when he didn't come back, Josie followed. She found him pinned under a collapsed beam, bleeding from the leg, unable to move. He looked up, eyes desperate. "The phone, go call the sheriff," he gasped. "Tell him I know," Josie said. The words were soft, clear, and spoken. James froze. "You can hear." Josie's face paled. She backed up, shame flooding her expression. She stammered. "I can. I always could. But when I was little, my father, he hated noise. Said girls should be silent. When I spoke, her voice caught. He said if I didn't act he'd make me wish I was." James felt something in his chest crack wide open. "You don't have to pretend anymore," he said gently. "Not here." Healing wasn't instant. Josie still flinched at loud voices, still woke from nightmares soaked in sweat. But slowly the silence of the ranch turned into peace instead of punishment. They fell into rhythm. Josie laughed more. She rode horses like she was born in the saddle. James started leaving the radio on in the mornings. He even cooked pancakes on Sundays, because she liked them with blueberry syrup. One spring afternoon, while planting tomatoes, Josie looked up and said, "You didn't save me, you know. You just gave me space to save myself." James smiled, dirt on his hands. "Well," he said, "someone once gave me that space. Seemed like the least I could do." Josie nodded. "Then maybe I'll do the same for someone else one day." The ranch stayed quiet, but not empty. The sound of healing was quieter than laughter or music. It was trust and breathing without fear. And James Tucker, the lonely rancher, wasn't so lonely anymore. That summer, wildflowers bloomed along the fence line like they hadn't in years. Josie took to naming them. Blazing stars, prairie smoke, and Indian paintbrush. Writing their names in a little leather-bound notebook James found tucked behind a barn beam and gave her. She'd press the petals between pages, smile as she studied them like something sacred. She had a quiet strength, James realized, the kind forged in dark places. But now, she moved through the world like someone who'd found sunlight for the first time and wasn't going to waste a second of it. By the fall, Josie was handling most of the ranch chores. James let her, not out of laziness but trust. When he threw out his back mending the roof, she wrapped his ribs and drove the pickup into town for supplies like she'd been doing it all her life. One night, sitting on the porch beneath a full moon, she said, "You ever think about leaving this place?" James tipped his hat back. "Used to. When Clara passed, I thought I might sell it, move somewhere smaller. But then, well, I guess I started thinking maybe places carry people with them. You leave parts of them behind." Josie nodded, thoughtful. "I like that. Places carrying people." She paused, then added quietly, "I think this place is carrying me now." James didn't say anything right away, just stared out at the fields, golden under moonlight. He reached over and passed her the tin cup of warm cider. "I'm glad it is," he said. By the first snow, something unspoken had shifted between them. Not like father and daughter exactly, but something close. Something rooted. At Christmas, Josie gave James a new leather belt she'd stitched herself. He gave her a guitar that used to belong to Clara, the strings polished, the wood smooth with time. "I thought you might like a voice in a different form," he said as she opened the case. She traced the frets, tears brimming in her eyes. "I don't know how." "Then we'll learn," he said. Together. Winter was hard, as winters always are on the plains. Fences froze, cattle needed round the clock care, and the wind howled loud enough to rattle bones. But this time the house was full. Not just of noise, but of something warmer, music, stories, a sense of belonging. Josie had started writing again, not just flower names but poetry, letters she never sent, memories she wanted to remember differently. When she read one aloud one evening by the fire, James blinked hard and didn't speak for a while. She noticed. Too much. No, he said hoarsely. Just right. In the spring, Josie asked if she could start volunteering at the youth center in town. There's kids there who've seen worse, she said. I know what that feels like. I want to be that space for someone else. James nodded, pride swelling in his chest. Just don't forget your chores. She grinned. Wouldn't dream of it, boss. By then, she wasn't just helping around the ranch, she was helping him. Teaching him how to live again, how to speak things that had sat too long in silence. James, who once thought life ended with loss, began to understand it could start again too, quietly, steadily, in the hands of someone brave enough to stay. And in that old farmhouse, where time once stood still, laughter now echoed in the kitchen, music drifted through the walls, and kindness, unspoken and unconditional, did the work of rebuilding two hearts. That summer, the ranch saw its best yield in years. Calves were born strong, the grass thick and green underfoot. Locals started coming around more, dropping off tools, staying for coffee, asking advice on their own land. They noticed the change. In James. In the house. In the girl they once pitied from afar. Josie was no longer just the quiet girl on the edge of town. She was becoming someone people listened to, gentle but certain. She taught the neighbors' twins how to braid rope, and helped an old widow mend a sagging barn door. Always giving. Always watching with those calm, clear eyes. One evening, James found her standing in the pasture, the wind tugging at her braid. She was looking west, toward the hills, where the sun dipped low and warm across the fields. He joined her, leaning against the fence. What are you thinking about? She didn't answer right away. Then, I used to wonder if I'd ever stop feeling broken. James studied her face. The light caught her cheekbones, the faint scar along her temple. Now, he asked. She shrugged, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. Now I think maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just waiting to grow. He nodded slowly. Funny how pain fools us into thinking we're less than we are. Josie turned to him. Do you ever miss her? Every day, he said, but I don't feel lost anymore. She touched his hand lightly. Me neither. By the time the harvest moon rose, they'd painted the kitchen, fixed the attic window, and cleared out the old greenhouse behind the shed. Josie filled it with tomatoes, basil, and sunflowers. James built her a bench for writing. It wasn't a palace, just a little glass room where light came in from every angle. But to Josie it was enough. More than enough. One morning a letter arrived addressed to her. No return address. She stared at it for a long time before opening it. It was from her father. A scribbled apology, shallow and crooked. A note about rehab. A question, would she ever speak to him again? She held it in her lap the whole afternoon. Said nothing. James didn't ask. That night after supper she slipped the letter into the fireplace. Watched it curl and burn until all that remained was ash. Some things, she said softly, don't need answers. James simply nodded. As the seasons turned again, the past became quieter. Not gone, not erased, but smaller. Like a shadow fading at the edge of dawn. And in its place something else took root. Not just peace, but purpose. In late October the town hosted its annual harvest fair. For the first time, Josie entered something. Jars of her own wildflower honey and a poem handwritten in looping script, tacked to a board between pumpkin pies and quilts. It wasn't flashy. It didn't need to be. When she won second place, the announcer called her name over the loudspeaker, and the crowd clapped politely. But James clapped louder than anyone. She caught his eye through the crowd, and he tipped his hat, pride written plain across his weathered face. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the stars blinked quietly above the barn, Josie sat beside him on the porch. Feels strange, she said, being known for something good. You earned every bit of it, James replied, and more. She looked at the land stretching out around them. I used to think the world was just a hard place to survive. James sipped his coffee, letting the words settle. And now, he asked. Josie leaned back against the porch rail, pulling her sweater tight around her shoulders. Now I think the world can be hard, sure. But sometimes people show up, they stay, and that changes everything. James didn't speak. He didn't have to. The wind shifted. A pair of owls called softly from the woods. Somewhere inside the old clock ticked on steady and sure. There was still work to do, always would be. Fences to mend, animals to tend, storms to weather. But tonight none of it felt heavy, because healing had come not in grand gestures but in quiet ones. In a porch light left on. In a girl finding her voice. In a man learning how to listen. And beneath that endless stretch of sky, with two chairs side by side and the night wrapped around them like a promise, everything felt just right. Kindness costs nothing but means everything. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. One small act of kindness can echo for a lifetime. Even the softest voice can make a loud difference when it speaks kindness. Kindness is a language the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Mark Twain. Compassion doesn't need permission. It needs courage. Let your kindness be the spark that lights someone's dark day.